Hi, I'm Mike Olson, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my piece, What They're Doing. Just to give you some background here, back in 2002, I went through a big change in my compositional practice where I did my first fragment-based music composition in 2002. This is where, and I had thought about it actually for years. I thought about it for a number of years before doing it, and I was not sure and all that, and if I wanted to try it, I finally tried it. And that's where I went through a bunch of CDs and sampled all kinds of elements, and then I constructed a piece of music from it. And that piece was called Actual W. So I was real happy with it, and that set me off in a really completely new direction. For me now, it was merging the worlds of digital audio editing that I do an awful lot of, and music composition. Those two kind of merged. And I went on and did additional pieces. I've been writing that way ever since, actually. But the third piece that I did in this technique was called What They're Doing. And this was actually the last of the fragment pieces that I did where I used elements from other composers, right? I had sampled other music and then created something. After this piece, I kind of knew what made a good fragment, and I just started writing my own fragments. But What They're Doing was the last one where I was using music from other people. It's actually using samples from 11 different compositions. And the full list, all that information, if you're interested, is on mikeolsonmusic.com. Just go to the Compositions tab, scroll down to What They're Doing. It has a lot of information. It'll have all the composers and all the pieces and so forth listed there. The second one I did was all Kronos string quartet samples. And then I tried to actually get permission after the fact. And that turned out to be... Kronos was fine. They didn't care. They were okay with me doing it. But the publishers, some of them were just absolutely, against me doing it. But the piece was already done. So I decided on the next one, which was What They're Doing, I wanted to actually have permission. I wanted to make it legal so I could put it on a record, like 6 projects, which this piece is included in. So I approached Heather Berenger from the fantastic contemporary concert music ensemble Zeitgeist, and I told her what I was doing, what I wanted to do. I'd worked with them before on a number of other pieces, but not fragment pieces. And she said, sure.
I'm always stunned and eminently so satisfied listening to a Mike Olson composition with the meticulous nature. Well, I wouldn't want to call it meticulous, but your pieces sound so spontaneous and so satisfying, yet because I know you, because I know Mike, I know how many hours spent in the room, and how many splices and how much care goes into every second of what we're listening to. Yet the end result is always just delightful.
Now, Zeitgeist is made up of 4 musicians. You have 2 percussionists, a pianist, and a reed player. And you'll hear this piece, it'll sound like there's more than 4 because there's layers. Or you'll often hear harmonies in the reeds and so forth. It's all because of how I constructed it in the computer, melding all these fragments around. You'll also hear, because these were live performances of these 11 different pieces, some of them had guest other musicians involved and so forth. So you hear some violin, you hear some accordion, this and that. I think there's some homemade instruments used in somewhere. There's a little bit of synthesizer in there somewhere.
I listened to the piece, and I know that all the way through it, I would have the sense of, oh, there's what that piece is. Of course I recognize that sound, and sometimes I'm completely wrong. Like the piece that I thought that I was hearing was not the piece that I thought I was hearing, and there were new combinations, and yet I'd think I'd have it at the beginning, and it would change into something that I didn't recognize at all.
And that's the thing about this method, I should mention. If I wasn't telling you how it was made, it should just sound played. And to me, this music sounds very played. It sounds like it's a group of people playing this live. And it is not. All of the constituent elements were performed live, but it's very, very altered. Sometimes it's a little bit longer chunk. We're talking, seconds, not minutes here, longer. A lot of them are quite short. But usually I try to get like a little phrase or a little gesture, that I can work with. So I'm really glad that this piece came out as well as it did. I mean, it was only the third fragment piece I ever made, but it sounds really good to me still. It sounds very played, it sounds very musical, it sounds like it has a real sense of ensemble. And Zeitgeist, they're fantastic, and having that kind of source material to work from, that adds life to it. When the granular elements themselves have life and vitality, of course, it can only help the overall effect of the finished piece. I'm so glad that it's part of the Six Projects recording project with Anova Recordings, available on CD or LP. And thanks for listening to me talk about it, what they're doing. Thanks. Oh, one more thing. one more thing. The title, what they're doing. So if you listen carefully in the piece, you will hear Pat O'Keefe says this a couple times. He said at some point in one of the recordings, I heard him, he was talking to people in the audience or something, and he said, "It's incredible what they're doing." And then I just liked that, and I used that in the piece. It's mutated, it's altered, but you can hear it. And at the end, you can really hear it. It's really stretched out and altered, but you'll hear him saying, "It's incredible." But it's kind of real soft, but you can tell it's there. Anyway, that's why I ended up calling it What They're Doing. All right, What They're Doing. Thanks for listening. And okay, so that's what I got to tell you. Thanks for taking more than a minute, and I appreciate your time. No. I just really find this to be a really buy the record, please. Well, thanks for taking a little time to listen to me talk about this piece, What They're Doing, and I hope you get a chance to hear the whole piece on the Six Projects LP CD on Anova Recordings. Thanks.